Kim Jacobs, the Balance Doctor. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of The Kim Jacobs Show. Be sure to subscribe to The Kim Jacobs Show right on YouTube. Turn on your notification bell to all so you never miss a beat. And guess what? Every time you watch, you're going to receive a real relevant and relatable guest that's going to share with you a piece of the puzzle on this journey called life that will help you be able to manage just a little bit smoother. At the end of the day, the Kim Jacobs Show goal is to be able to provide balance to the world, one household at a time.
Kim Jacobs Show. You're watching Kim Jacobs Show.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of the Kim Jacobs Show. I am super excited to be here with you guys today. We have Pastor Paulette Harper and Mrs. Betty Collier. I am so excited. How are you, ladies?
Wonderful. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. You know what? I'm almost in giddy mode because it's the holiday season. Is it just me, or do you all share the same sentiments with it being, the birth of Jesus Christ? I'm just excited about this time of the year. Every year I look forward to it. How about you, ladies?
Me too. Yes, absolutely. Same sentiment.
Well, you got to see me backstage before I transform, Betty. So you like, how'd she do that? How'd she do that? I can transform. I can transform quickly, right?
Quickly.
So you guys back in home, you don't know all the behind the scenes stuff of the Kim Jacobs Show. Pastor Paulette, how about you? You excited?
Yes, I am always. I love this time of the season, just to really, uplift Christ and bring him back into what the real reason we're celebrating. And so I'm always excited about this season to just really showcase Christ.
Awesome. Now, obviously, and I know in our household, we still give gifts and people, are excited about that too. They're looking forward and anticipating what are they going to get, whatever. And I've noticed along the years, it's changed in our household because like yesterday, my one son was saying to my other son, he was like, oh yeah, I'm going to get you this book. And I was like, well, I mean, you've already told him. So he was like, Mom, we're at the age who just need to know it's coming and it's going to be your Christmas gift. I was like, oh, okay. So they're not, how about in your households? Anybody at that phase?
Well, my children are older. They're 22 and 27. So one is married and doesn't live here. The other just graduated from college, but they're not the little boys they used to be when we, went out of our way to try to make everything a surprise. So now it's really not a surprise anymore. They pretty much know, but it's still fun.
Okay. How about you, Pastor Paulette?
Yeah, I'm solo here, and so my kids are all grown and whatnot. So I'm just able to, I'm blessed to be able to buy gifts, for people that are, not in my immediate home. And so, of course, there is the element of surprise. I have accountability partners that we just exchanged gifts the other day, and so that was fun as well.
Oh, nice. I know back in many years, we did like, I don't know if it's called the Chinese gift exchange, but at our church, we would actually bring all of these universal gifts that anybody can get for a certain dollar amount. Yeah. And then each person can pick it. And then if you want that gift, you get the chance to steal it, I think like 2 or 3 times, and then it's dead. And it's like, no, I really wanted that foot warmer, or I really wanted that blanket, stuff you can go out and buy at the store, but it was just made it fun because we're here at the holiday season and having this competitive fun competition. Yeah. So anyway, everybody in the virtual studio audience, tell us how you have fun during the holidays. What are some things that you guys do that are creative, out of the box, traditional, non-traditional, whatever you do to make things a fun experience in your household this holiday season? We're talking today with Pastor Paulette Harper and Betty Collier, and they are a part of a big project that we're going to talk about right after this commercial break. So go ahead and tag your friends, tag about 10, 15 friends, and tell them that this episode is on, and we're going to be talking about for such a time as this. And what does that mean, for such a time as this? Right after this commercial break.
I'm attorney Kenneth D. Snow, and at the Snow Legal Group, justice is our job.
For more than 20 years, Attorney Snow has been fighting for justice and winning cases in the Carolinas by providing aggressive representation in criminal defense, domestic violence, family law, serious injury, and wrongful death. If you've been injured or lost a loved one in an accident, including tractor trailer or rideshare, you need the Snow Legal Group by your side, fighting for justice and fighting for you. Visit snowlegal.com. Call 704-358-0026 for a free virtual consultation. Located at 6827 Fairview Road, Suite D in South Park.
All right, everyone, and we are back with Pastor Paulette and Miss Betty Collier, and we're talking today about For Such a Time as This. Talk to us, Pastor Paulette, as the visionary behind this particular project. I would like for you to talk to us about what For Such a Time as This means.
Yeah, first of all, thank you so much for having us on your show. We do appreciate it. For such a time as this comes from the scripture, Esther 4:4, where the scripture says, perhaps for this reason, you have been created for this time. And so this book compilation is an opportunity for aspiring authors and even seasoned authors to write their chapter about the moments that they believe that they were created for. Because life gives us so many different elements of experiences and lessons and trials and testings. And sometimes we ask ourselves, why are we going through this? And so this book was really an opportunity for them to share their moment as to, that aha moment that they came and realized, what, this is why God allowed certain things to happen in my life, and that there's a purpose for it all. And so these stories are just just resonate from their own personal experiences to really convey to readers why every maybe lessons that they learned in life was really fashioned them and molded them to be able to live in the moment in which they are sharing their stories.
That's really good. Really good. What made you become a part of this project, Betty?
Well, when I heard about it, and like Pastor Paulette said, because of what it is, I felt like I had something that I could share too for such a time as this. Didn't really know what exactly, so I had to kind of think about it and realize that I really did have something to say for such a time as this. So it went through the whole writing process for me, how I started and where I am now, and realizing that because of the message inside my books, it really is for such a time as this. So it just resonated with me, mainly because of the title and the times that we're living in now with COVID and everything else that's going on in America, just in general with us. We just have a lot that we need to share to try to get the attention of people to listen and to realize these are challenging times, and there's a lot to be said and a lot that we can learn from each other if we would just sit quietly and listen and not be so, against each other for everything. We've got to pull together, come together for such a time as this to make it through all of this.
That's good. That's really good. And when we, like you say, when we talk about for such a time as this, it is so much happening across the land right now that people are at odds. It's so much strife amongst the government, the officials.
Yeah.
It's just strife everywhere in the school systems and the churches, and it's overwhelming. So to have for such a time as this, I think is just so relevant and so needed for this particular season of our lives. And I am eager to read your book and to see what some of the different angles are. What is some, let me back up for a second, because I want to formally introduce you guys and tell at least people who you are for a second, because I don't think I ever said that. I was just so excited to hear. But Betty Collier describes herself as a nurse by profession, author by passion, and a storyteller by the grace of God. And Paulette, Pastor Paulette, she is a visionary, a speaker, and a story coach to nonfiction authors. So she coaches all of these nonfiction authors. She is also the author of, guess how many books? Not one, not two, not six, not 10, but 13 books is what Pastor Paulette has authored. So she knows what she's talking about. What I would like to hear from you all is, when we come back from this commercial break, just talk to us about what I want to hear what your angle is in the book, Betty, when we come back. But then I also, with you being the spearheader of this project, Pastor Paulette, I'd like for you to share just something that really was like, it was mind blowing for you when you kind of start compiling all of these stories together. Tell us the one, maybe not just your favorite or anything like that, because you cannot play that game on nobody's public show. There was no favorite, people, okay? There's no favorite, but you definitely can just share some things that really hit you in your spirit to let you know that I'm really grateful that I took heed to God's call to do this. Yeah, that's a good way to word it. I'm good. I'm good. All right. You keep it general. All right. We'll be right back right after this commercial break, everyone.
It's not just another day. It's a brand new day, full of all the fun, love, and laughter you and your family create. Silver Shield Security understands feeling at home means feeling safe and happy. No credit checks, no contracts. We offer payment arrangements, and we'll even give you a free door camera. Find out how we can brighten your day even more at silvershield-security.com. Silver Shield Security.
All right, everyone. We are back and we're talking with the visionary Pastor Paulette Harper for Such a Time as This, and one of the contributing authors, Betty Collier. So, Betty, tell us about your chapter in this book.
Well, I think I'll start by reading how I started my chapter. It kind of explains things.
Good.
Just a little snippet from the beginning. It's called Living Inside the Testimony. I was living inside the testimony all along, but never realized it until I started writing what I thought would be my first and only book in 2009. Now it's 2021, and my testimony has taken me places all across America that I never thought I would go. It is beyond my wildest imagination that I am the official storyteller of a series of books featuring the John 3:16 Global Placement Project. This new mission is definitely for such a time as this and brings to fruition in my life an epiphany exceeding abundantly above all that we ask or think. Ephesians 3:20. So in my chapter, I pretty much go from that first book, aptly entitled Living Inside the Testimony. That's my testimony, sharing my story. And all the books in between leading up to 2021 and the new project with the John 3:16 Global Placement Project. All the books in between built up to that, although they're not related. Had I not written all of those other books, I would never find myself in this place to be able to be part of that global project. And those are actually fictional books, but they're based on scripture, and each one has a message with an afterword in the back that's written by Terry Gurley. He's the founder of the Global Placement Project. So the last book is the birthday gift, but within that birthday gift, I introduce the Global Placement Project. So it's all related, but you have to read the book, which is fictional, to understand how to get to that John 3:16 Global Placement mission and how they're all related. And that really is for such a time as this, because we know John 3:16, for God to love the world that he gave his only begotten son, that whosoever believeth in him shall not perish but have everlasting life. So I take them on a fictional journey to get to that. So I hopefully reel them in with the fictional story and then introduce the gospel along the way before they realize what the aim of the book is.
Wow. Okay, you really intrigued me. I'm like, oh, I can't wait. So you have all of these different projects that have kind of built upon each other, not knowing that at the end of the culmination of it all would be for such a time as this. And you didn't have any idea that when you were doing a John 3:16 project that it would coincide and work cohesively with this particular project that you're doing now for such a time as this.
Right. I had no idea when I first started. I thought I'd just write one book. That first book back in 2009, just sharing my story. I thought I was done. I wrote that one book and it's like, God, I'm through. I did what you asked me to do. I shared my testimony. So I'm done. I'm going to go back and be a nurse. I was still a nurse while I was writing it, but I thought I was through. And it just continued. And I started sharing other testimonies for other people, sharing their stories, each one building on the other, but like I said, totally unrelated. But it took me writing each one to get to the next one.
Wow. Okay. Wow. Now, Pastor Paulette, you're a visionary behind this project. What made you go into doing compile? I know you compiled this and you shared some details about that, but I would like to hear which stories kind of really hit you to say, now I know I did the right thing here.
Yeah, I have been doing anthologies for such a time as this is my fourth anthology. And so I found that it was very not only therapeutic for me to even write, but also I wanted to give a platform to other writers as well. A lot of the authors are first time authors. And so it gives everyone an opportunity to share their one chapter, their story about whatever that title is. And so for such a time as this was one of those compilations where I wanted to have authors on in this book that really knew what their purpose was in life, why they were created, why they came to the realization of why God allowed certain things to happen in their lives, and how did they not stay stuck, but how did they get through that so they can share that with the readers. And so I find a great joy to have opportunities to do book collaborations because it gives me the opportunity to read such powerful stories from every author. And there is not one story that is the same. We may have similar experiences, but our lessons that we learned are all different, and how we've processed those lessons are all different. And so every story that resonates in this book gives the readers, it is an eye opener, because readers will find out that they're not alone, that these authors have gone through some very challenging moments in life, and that the readers can be assured that they can get through. And so this book is just a parallel to the lives of some of the readers that, are going through things right now.
Good. Very good. I am so excited. I think that a lot of people are going to be equally excited to get this book. Are you saying something, Paulette?
No, I'm agreeing with you.
You know what happens is on our own individual ends, I can't control your individual internet. And so I can see your mouth going, but I thought you were blowing me a kiss or something. I was like, because it did like a little freeze frame, but it's a cute freeze frame. It's a good place to freeze, that's for sure. So you have like the perfect freeze frame facial expressions, that's for sure. Listen, everybody, we're talking with the authors of For Such a Time as This, and it's an Amazon #1 bestseller, compiled by award-winning author Pastor Paulette Harper. And she has a whole team of individuals that are sharing their stories in this anthology. So how can people get a copy of this book?
Yeah, as you mentioned, they can go to Amazon. They can connect with any one of the authors. Betty has books as well. All the authors have copies of the book. And then I just might add that for such a time as this was Amazon #1 bestseller in 9 categories. And so I have to bring that to our attention. And so, Betty, 9. So they can get copies on Amazon and then on our websites as well.
Excellent. Excellent. That's definitely worth noting. 9 categories. Do you know how hard it is to get Amazon best-selling in one category? If you can blow out 9 categories, it's something that you must read, and lots of great reviews as well for this particular project. So you want to make sure that you take advantage of getting your copy for this holiday season and gift it to someone. Let them know that you're blessing them to be able to have a better outcome in their lives just by sharing this particular anthology with them. Okay. So I also want to make sure that people get an opportunity to hear from you all individually about your own personal journeys. I know that you're working together collaboratively in this book project, but there are some things about you all individually that everybody would like to know. So just take us on a journey about your life, Betty, and give us some of your background. I see a lot of pictures back there, so there's a lot to Betty Collier outside of what you're doing here in this anthology. So when we come back, take a moment and take us on your journey, if you will, Betty, okay? All right. And then we're going to hear, of course, from you, Pastor Paulette, as well. And any tips that you all think would be helpful to our viewers today that are struggling with such a time as this? Because it's not so positive or so uplifting and so edifying for everyone that's walking across this land. Many people have experienced death and with the loved ones and all kinds of things that people have been dealing with and in this season of their lives. So any advice as you're talking to would be very helpful. Okay. When we come back, everybody, you'll hear from Betty Collier.
I'm attorney Charles Everidge. I started out representing insurance companies until my father was seriously injured at work. 4 of his fingers were amputated. Our family went through a lot, so I know what you're going through as an injured worker. If you've been hurt on the job, call me now. I'll fight to get the workers' comp benefits you may deserve. I'll fight for you like family. Put my experience to work for you. Call 704-457-5000, the first call for injured workers.
All right, everyone, we are back and we are talking with Pastor Paulette Harper and Betty Collier from the anthology For Such a Time as This. So Betty, talk to us about your background. Tell us a little bit about your backstory, actually.
Well, I guess it all starts with the book, actually, Living Inside the Testimony, because that's where I start my story of how I met my husband in middle school, actually. And we fell in love at age 14. So it's that sort of story. If you know me, you don't know me without knowing my husband as well. And when you went on Facebook, you saw my profile picture was with my husband. So that's pretty much where my story began with him. And I really can't remember a time that he wasn't the major part of my life, starting with our marriage, of course, at age 21. But now we have 2 children, ages 22 and 27. So we've been married 35 years. That dominates my story. And when I wrote my first book, Living Inside the Testimony, it was sharing how we met. And the first 5 chapters is actually dedicated to our story. He almost died a week before high school graduation.
Oh,
he was assaulted and had an epidural hematoma, blood clot on the brain, and a neurosurgeon had to perform emergency surgery to save his life. And that was a week before high school graduation. So that really got our attention because, he could have been gone at age 18. So I started that story by sharing my story of living inside the testimony with him and all that we went through and, eventually getting married, having children and all of that. And just life in general and how I realized.
I want to show everybody. Wait, I want to show everybody this husband that could have died at the age of 18 when he was attacked. How old?
An epidural hematoma, that's a blood clot on the brain. And without removing that blood clot, it will lead to death. And it had to be performed before the blood clot killed him, which would have been a few hours later because it had happened. He actually went to an emergency room and they stitched up where the assault was across his forehead. They stitched it up and sent him home. And once he was home, he started losing consciousness. His sister's a nurse, so she knew what to look for. And they got him to a second emergency room. And it was at that emergency room they did the CAT scan. This was back in 1983, before they had MRIs, but they had CAT scans. So they did the CAT scan, found the blood clot, and rushed him off to surgery.
Wow.
Rushed him off to surgery. It was just that close because he was already losing consciousness. He was vomiting, all of the symptoms of the blood clot just squishing his brain, and it would have killed him. And the neurosurgeon told them that they had gotten him there just in time. But had they not done that surgery, he would have died that night. So
well, I'm grateful that he's alive. And I do want to ask you, I know you're going to continue on with your backstory, but I do want to take a moment because there are a lot of people watching today and they're married and they're on their journey of bliss and happiness, which is a good thing. So what advice would you give to those couples that are wanting to have a robust, loving, long-lasting marriage? And not like it needs to mirror yours per se, but just you've been there and you've done it. And so how long have you been married now?
35 years.
35 years, everybody. Okay, I think we want to hear from people that have been married for 35 years. So tell us what advice you would give us to be happily married.
That's actually a picture from my son's wedding. He got married in 2020.
No wonder y'all look extra happy there. You know, and I was looking through your pages and I was like, you look extra happy right there.
Yeah, that's our son's wedding. Actually, he got
Aw.
married 4 days before the pandemic hit. So we got to experience the whole joy of the big planned wedding. And 4 days later, everything shut down. And they
Oh
had been
my
engaged for
gosh.
about 18 months. They had known each other. They fell in love in high school. You know, another one of those stories. But they had been dating about 7 years because they were so young. So all of that. And then, you know, like we say, God knew from birth that they would be the ones that would marry each other. He also knew that they would get married March 7th, 2020, 4 days before March 11th.
Right.
When the pandemic happened. So yes, we're very happy that day, not knowing what was going to happen just a few days later. So
Wow. That
yeah.
no, who could have expected or anticipated that? Nobody.
Exactly.
None of us could have ever predicted that something was going to come through the land and take this level of turmoil on the land. It's ridiculous. And so wow, that's a really beautiful love story. And so what advice do you give to couples?
The main advice is to trust God. That's with any marriage. If you don't trust God first, if you don't love God first, you really can't love each other like you should. So you have to put God first. Then, of course, you put your spouse next. So if each spouse would put the other spouse right under their relationship with God, everything else works out. And I
Always.
know that's much easier said than done. And you can't be responsible for what the other person does. You can only be responsible for yourself. But if you do it yourself, the other person has to make that commitment as well. But
Good.
you know, they ask people all the time the secret to a long, happy marriage and all that. There's really no secret to it. And I really can't give advice for anybody else. Each person's relationship is different, but you've got to love each other and you have to be committed in knowing that that's the person that God had for you. And when I look at my husband, I think that really is the person that God made just for me. He is my husband.
Right.
I have to love him. I can't help but to love him because that's the man that God chose for me. So I
That's good.
love him with the love of God. I love him with all that I am, with all, you know, I can, you know, the whole book. So, you know, I've written a book about it. Obviously, I love this man just that much.
Yes. And that's a good thing. That's what marriage should be, is
Should be.
genuine love. Is like, above all, I love this man. So that's so good. So good. All right. What else do you want to say about your backstory for people to know more about your journey?
Well, and after that book, then I wrote other books. Like I said, from the beginning, I never dreamed I'd even write the first one. So after I wrote that one, I was done and I was just going on my way. And someone approached me about sharing their story. So that ended up being the second book, Angel in My Room. And I share the story of Lily Hopkins, her story that she had kept quiet for over 30 years.
Wow.
It was really hard for her to talk about it, a very heartbreaking story,
Yeah.
very painful. She had never told her story. So
Interesting.
after I wrote mine, she asked me to share hers. So I went on that journey with her, not knowing, you know, exactly how that would be, because with my story, it was all in my head. I knew it all. I could tell my
Right.
story because I had lived it. I was living inside the testimony. And really, that's how I realized I was living inside the testimony, because I was writing the book about it. So
That's
I really didn't
interesting.
know how I would share someone else's story, because I just never dreamed I'd do that. So with her, I talked to her, I interviewed her, and I was able to share her story that she had kept quiet all those years. And from that, other things began to develop. And the next story, Sjogren's, it's actually telling the story of 5 women with Sjogren's syndrome. That
What is it
started
called?
with Venus Williams. It's called Sjogren's. That's an autoimmune disease. It's the same one that Venus Williams has. And that was the
Okay.
first time I heard about it, when Venus Williams had to pull out of the US Open because of Sjogren's. So that's
Oh,
my introduction to it. And actually, I had a lot of those same symptoms. It was one of those things that's really hard to diagnose, an autoimmune disease. Second most common, but few people have ever heard of it, Sjogren's. Most people never heard that.
hmm.
So with that one, And it was like everything was building on itself, because with mine, it was just my story. Then with the other one, it was one person's story, Lily Hopkins. With the third one, it's 5 people. So I interviewed all 5 of them and told all 5 of their stories. So it's like each
Wow.
one, I got the experience from the book before to advance to the next book without realizing that's really what I was doing. I had no
Good
idea.
gracious.
Each
Y'all are
thing
some busy
was built
people
on
over
the
there.
other. Yeah. And it just kept going from that. And then with one, I actually mentored another girl. I say that I stalked her on Facebook. We were actually friends, so I didn't stalk her. We ran track
Right,
together.
right. I
Knew her,
know.
but she had fascinating stories. And I thought she needs to write a book about that, about her son, James. The 4th book is the book about James. And I helped her tell her story. She wrote the book. I mentored her, coached her through the book, and helped
Good.
her to share her story in the book about James, about her son. 9 children, James is the youngest, and she shares what it was like because she didn't know he had Down syndrome until he was born. They didn't catch it during prenatal. So she tells her story, very brutally honest story of what that experience was like. And at the time, James was 9 when the book came out. Beautiful, beautiful, 21 unique short stories. Very funny. So when I was talking to her on Facebook, because she tells such beautiful stories, they're hilarious. She's actually really well, and I'll say this too, because actually the book came out in 2015. Beautiful. It was actually an Amazon #1 bestseller as well.
Wow. Wow.
And in 2016, Julia passed, the author of the book, James's mother. She actually passed. But, that's, who would have thought? And all the whole experience, I was with her for 3 years writing that story. And, we thought we had the rest of our lives to share that story together.
Of course.
And,
And that's interesting that's interesting you're saying that, because all of that goes right back to, you really know when for such a time as this is so relevant to what you're dealing with, even though I know that's not the chapter of the book you're talking about. I mean, that's not the title of the book you're talking about. The point is that God allowed for such a time as that in your lives, for that part of her story to be pulled out, and for you and her to have that moment, and her children, her family. Now they're going to have something that's permanent, document that they'll be able to have, part of the legacy of her life right in their possession, all because you honored what God gave for you to do. So it's so important for you to live in the testimony. Exactly. Everything that you're saying is like a boom, 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 boom. It's amazing.
It really does amaze me how each book came about and how everything just built on what was previously done. And, I think back on all of that, and like with Julia, because of all that she went through and was able to share her story. It's really funny. She is hilarious. She reminds me of Irma Bombeck, who used to write those newspaper articles. And I told her that's what she needed to be doing, because she's really funny. And to get her take on life and to have that left behind, I know that's just one teeny tiny part of her life, that one book, but that was the part that I could share, that one book that we had in common. All those children, her husband, she was loved dearly by so many people. And just for me to be part of that and to be responsible for bringing that book to life, because when I asked her, I had no idea what she would say. And she told me she had always wanted to write a book. I never knew that. And,
wow.
The concept for the book came from me. The idea was mine. The title was mine. Everything was mine, except her, of course, telling her story, the most important part. But to get her to that point, it took me to get her to that point. But she tells her story beautifully in those 21 unique short stories. So that's the memory left behind, the legacy that she's left behind, and so much in that book that people never would have been able to hear. And like I said, we thought we just had years, to spend together, having fun, promoting the book and doing all of these things. And then
Wow. So people
she's gone.
Now she's in heaven, and so she's making people laugh. Julia, I know you
No,
up there cutting
I
up.
know she
I know you
is.
cutting up in
She most
heaven, girl.
definitely is. Yes.
So I know you up there just enjoying, and all of the stuff that you were saying would be good for her to do here. She is able to just explore all of her wonderful options in heaven. So I'm grateful that God put in your heart to have that project with her come to pass. And what advice do you give people? I'm going to see when Paulette comes back in. What advice do you give people that think that they have unlimited amount of time? But it's not always the case. What advice? Because you experienced it in your friend Julia. What advice do you give
Almost with
people?
my husband, even with him, because he could have been gone at age 18.
That's right.
And, Julia's passing was so sudden. And, at the time, I think she was like in her early 50s. We were actually the same age because we went to the same high school and graduated together. So she was in her early 50s and, just a husband and all those children. And just like that, it's gone. So we just never know. We always need to be ready because we never know when our last day is. So we make the most of each day, do what we need to do the work that God has called us to do.
That's
and
right.
be prepared when the time comes so that we can spend eternity with him. And obviously as a Christian, all of my books have a Christian theme, of course. I can't write and take
I
out
can't write
Christian
nothing
theme.
without.
I'm a believer. So all of my books, it's apparent that I'm a believer. They all have a twist. They all have different things about them. But in the end, I'm a believer. And as a Christian, I'm ready. I believe John 3:16. So
Yes.
if we live that life when we're ready, we accept Jesus as our personal savior, regardless of anything else. When it's our time, we need to be ready.
That's
to
good.
meet our
Very
Savior.
good. And we
And
all
we
have, we're
do.
going to all experience death. So no matter how we slice it, whether we talk about it, don't talk about life insurance, death insurance, funeral expenses, whatever. The point is, in life, there is going to be death. We know that. So we have to prepare ourselves as much as we can and do everything that we can while we're on this earth to know that we've left all of ourselves here. Everything that we wanted to impact, everything that we wanted to do, we need to do that while we're here in this day in our lives. So I love that what you're saying and just not taking it for granted. So
And
listen, we're bringing.
It doesn't have to be anything grand. We get caught up with social media and reality TV and all of that. It doesn't have to be that. That's not the real world. Just whatever it is individually for each of us on a quiet level, a realistic level, what our calling is, and do that.
Whatever your calling is, just do it to the glory of God and do it to the best of your ability and beyond your ability. Let God's ability take over and help you do even more. Okay.
Yes.
Listen, I see some comments coming in. Tony Lyons says, good morning. So glad to have you in the virtual studio audience, Tony. And make sure you all tag your friends too. Good morning, my mommies is on. She said, good morning, ladies. I'm in my virtual seat enjoying the show. All right, let's see some other comments that came in. Okay, I see you. Tony said, glory to God with your sharing, the story that you're sharing. Kimberly Fowler says, season's greetings, ladies. Hi, Kimberly. Glad to have you on. Glad to have you on, Tony. All right, so those are some of the comments that came in. And if you all want to put some more comments, and I see many of you on, but you don't type anything. So all I can do is just say, hey, I see you out there, but I can't acknowledge you by name because I don't know each person without like literally taking a break during the show and analyzing. Okay, you're here. And now we're live across 8 different platforms. So the only way we get a chance to acknowledge you is if you type a comment saying, hey, I'm here. Say something to me. I'm over here in seat B, or I'm over here in seat C, or whatever. And I know Mother Julia Harper, you're on. And I know when I speak to you, you say that you're definitely watching the show. So thank you for being in the virtual studio audience. We're so honored to have you. 83 years old, heart pumping strong. And she is actually a heart recipient from a young boy that was 16 years old. And she received his heart. I see you, Pastor Paulette, back there. I'm going to pull you back in. I think that's a better internet connection over there. So we're going to pull you and see how that works. How are you?
OMG, technology.
It's okay. God. You making it happen and you look good. I could tell it was glitching. So I said, let me just pop you out for a second. And now it's all perfect. It's just the enemy's way to prevent stuff from happening the way it needs to happen, but I know how to flow with it. You know? So it's all good, and so honored to have you here today. So what I'd like to do, because we just heard some really awesome stuff from you, Betty, but I do also want to take a moment and hear from you, the visionary behind this project. Take us on your journey and tell us some things that we would really enjoy hearing about your story as well.
Yeah, thank you so much. So a little backstory about me is I started writing back in 2008. Yeah, my first book.
Okay.
And had no idea, just like Betty, you think you're only going to write one book, and so when you get done with that, then you think it's all done. But no, that's just the opportunity for God to just really expand your ministry, your brand, and who you are. And so that one book just really opened up so many gates for me and opportunities for me to just continue writing. And then, writing that one book, and I started writing that book coming from trauma. So I was married to a pastor for 23 years. And so I went through a lot of emotional trauma, and I shared that in my story that was then, This Is Now, and not realizing that there were so many other women who were going through emotional trauma, not necessarily divorce, but just life, whatever trauma they were going through. And just being able to just be open and be transparent and let people know that, what, it doesn't matter your title, who you are, what you do, your profession, how much you make, what your status is, life happens to all of us.
Yes, it does.
And so that's how I started sharing my stories, and it just, continued to build from that. And then coming in contact with other people just like Betty who wanted to write their stories, and, with me and what God has done in my life, he has allowed people to come into my life and pull from my gift. And so from that, I've been able to just really create opportunities just because people have been pulling on it, because truth be told, I probably would still be in the same, place where I was years ago, just with that one book. But I saw people that were wanting to share their stories as well, and they just needed somebody to help them, somebody to help guide them on how to write it, how to publish it, and how to get themselves out there and market their books. And so, my journey started like that, and I really realizing, the bigger picture of what God was doing in my life. But, looking back on it now, God just wows me, and I'm just at awe at the connections he's allowed me to make and the opportunities that he has presented for me. And it really came with me saying yes to my story, because when I wrote my first book, it was me talking about all my ugly, talking about my own struggle, being a minister of the gospel, and I came from that angle because as a preacher, you got to be honest with people. People want to be able to resonate with you and what you're going through, and that's going to really help them get through what they're going through. And so for me, just seeing what God has done in my life, and then being able to share on different platforms. I've been telling this story for over 20 something years about emotional trauma and divorce and what God is able to do, but I've been able to write it and share it in a way where it can reach so many more different people, and have a larger audience. And so I'm really grateful to where I am in the journey. It took tears, it took pressing, it took me being broken, it took me being, having scars to get to where I am today. But you know what? I would not change it for the world, because it was for such a time as this.
I love it. That's just like so appropriate for it. Oh gosh, you can just say that in every sentence that you say. It's like I think it's one of the best titles I've ever in my life heard. I'm not even joking, because it's like everything is for such a time as this. So now it's like, when I say that, I'm going to have to say, coined by Pastor Paulette Harper, right? But it's really for such a time as this. Life for such a time as this. Happiness, your husband, near fatal situation for such a time as this, that y'all would live a nice, long, robust life and be able to have 2 children. You could go back and look over, he's hanging the mistletoe. It's for such a time as this. Your friend Julia, you playing a key part in her legacy building for such a time as this. You, Pastor Paulette Harper, you're saying pulling from your gifts. I wrote that note down. I want to hear you talk about, everybody does not take that approach that you're taking when it comes to people pulling and pulling and pulling and pulling. This show is all about how people balance different aspects of their lives. How do you balance your life when so many people are pulling on you and pulling from you your gift?
Yeah, I balance it because I found that saying no is really powerful. And there are times where I just really have to say no to certain people and what they're asking of me, And I know my boundaries. I know my bandwidth. I know how far I can go, because I know that there is, when I'm doing anthologies, I'm adding, about 20 other authors on my plate to help them because all of them are so different, And so when it comes to, being a minister, that is number one. I'm always open to ministering and sharing the word of God to people. So there's no really boundaries in that. But everything else, with my businesses, I have just found, to learn how far I can go, how far I can stretch, and know where my boundaries are, and know how to say, no, I can't do that, or, put things in proper perspective. And there are some times where some things just don't get done, and I have to be okay with that. And so I found that when I'm okay with just putting stuff on the back burner and doing things that are really a priority in my life, that it works out for me. I get to the stuff eventually, but the things that are a priority, I make sure that, I do those necessary things. But it's really about setting boundaries for yourself and knowing how far you can go and how far you want people to take you and pull on your gifting.
That's so good. And that's for what? For
such a time as this.
You got to say that in every sentence. It's like the bottom line is everything that Pastor Paulette is saying, that Eddie Collier is saying, everything that I've ever said in any book that I've ever written or participated in, that all Amazon international bestsellings as well in different categories. Guess what? They are all for
such a time as this.
Y'all hashtag that. Everybody hashtag for such a time as this. If that doesn't trend, I don't know what can. Okay. Hashtag for such a time as this. Wow. Let's see. For such a time as this. Everybody, I don't care if you're watching this as a watch party later, if you're watching it as a replay, whatever. When you come on, make sure you hashtag for such a time as this. My cheeks are hurting like I've been at a really big event today, because I feel like this is just so relevant for what we're experiencing, because everything that's happening is for such a time as this. I want to also let everybody know that this evening I will be speaking on Les Brown's platform at 7:00 p.m. So make sure you all check out his page. I'm sure there'll already be a lot of other people checking out the page, because he got over, I think, 1.9 million followers or whatever. Bottom line is, definitely make sure you're in your virtual seats. I'll be being interviewed on his platform, and I am excited about that. I think his main person that helps with all of his projects, Celeste Johnson's going to be interviewing me, and she's a phenomenal interviewer, and I'm looking forward to that experience this evening at 7:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So make sure you're in your virtual seats for that. And then I will also let you know that I will be on tomorrow for Books to Boom and Your Business Part 3. And that's with Dr. H.C. Lotus Richey, Global Transformation Strategist, and Michael Freeland, which he's the author of Free Your Mind, Free That Land, Free Your Land. And he's talking about a different kind of real estate. You definitely don't want to miss that. And I'll be talking about some of the books that I have participated in and written as well. And so I'm looking forward to that. That's going to be tomorrow at 8:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And here you can screenshot the screen if you want to get the ID number and participate in that session tomorrow. Dr. Lotus Richey is she's a global talk show host with news you can use, and the Dr. Lotus Richey Ignite show. So you definitely want to be there and hear some information that'll be shared tomorrow. All right. And then a final thing I'll tell you about, one thing that's happening tomorrow here on the show is we have Charmin Prince. Her journey will be shared, and her story is a powerful one. These are stories that we kind of hand selected to help you as you're going through this holiday season. You need inspiration sometimes. You need to know that you're not on an island by yourself. And the people that have been coming on this show are providing you with a missing piece that might be missing in your own life as you're balancing this thing called life. These authors here are for such a time as this. With, let me move this so that you can see the bottom here. And it's Pastor Paulette Harper is the actual award-winning author. Real stories, real faith, real transformation. Amazon #1 best-selling book in 9 categories. You don't want to miss getting this, putting it in somebody's hands for the holidays. If it gets there in time for Christmas, great. If not, even as they kick off the new year, they need for such a time as this. And that could help change their lives. All right. So what other tips, advice, anything that you know you're like, Don, I really wanted to talk about this on the show and I didn't get to. Pastor Paulette, anything special you want to say?
Yeah, I just really wanted to say this. This was something that Betty had mentioned about the lady that she helped coach, and that she ended up passing, because we don't never know what day we're going to die. We never know what, when our time is going to, expire. And so it's so powerful to be able to share our stories while we are here, while we have the moment, while we have the time to do it. And so, for those who are, listening to this broadcast, you have a story in you. You have experiences in life. There's nothing that you've gone through will ever be in vain. There's no tear that has ever been wasted. And you have to be able to use your words and to leave legacy for people, your loved ones and whatnot. And so just, find you someone to help you write your story and get your story out, because it is so needed. It is so powerful, because it empowers other people, because it's so powerful of a connection that we can have with readers when we, share our stories. So don't be muted. Get unmuted, share your story with the world, and then embrace those moments in which you can share and really monetize and capitalize on what you've gone through in life.
Yes, get unmuted and share your story with the world. You heard that from Pastor Paul. I'm typing what you're saying. Pastor Paulette Harper, right here on the Kim Jacobs Show. And she's like just dropping significant knowledge, everybody. Listen, get yourself unmuted. Stop thinking that your story does not matter, because your story is important and it will help somebody. And it doesn't matter if it's helping one person or if it's helping a 1,000 or 1,000,000. The point is, it's your story. It has to be told. Get it out. Unmute yourself. Get it out there. Okay, go ahead, Betty Collier.
Well, my final word, I guess, is because of the project that I'm working on now. For such a time as this, really is the new mission that I'm on with the John 3:16 Global Placement Mission, sharing the story of John 3:16. So had I not written all those other books, and more importantly, had I not surrendered my will to God's will, because that's the bottom line in all of it, because I never thought I'd be an author. I never wanted to be, but I knew that that's what God had called me to do when I was in my 40s, still being a nurse and all of that. So I allowed his will to become my will, and surrendered to that, and started writing all these books. Had I not written all of those, I never would be in the place that I am now, where I was commissioned to write a series of books for the John 3:16 Global Placement Mission, which really is for such a time as this, because it shares the gospel, the whole John 3:16 Global Placement Mission for such a time as this, because that really is what the world needs to hear, what's inside John 3:16.
Yeah.
You don't understand. I know they're doing it as a little trending thing on TikTok, but I'm serious. Right here is when you say, Holy Spirit, activate. Holy Spirit, activate. 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 This is when you activate the Holy Spirit, when it's for such a time as this. Holy Spirit, activate. Activate. Now, this right here, the TikTok challenge, y'all. This ain't no general thing we joking around. We want the Holy Spirit to activate in each and every one of your lives that are watching this episode today. that are watching the Kim Jacobs Show and hearing Betty Collier and Pastor Paulette Harper, we're not just saying words.
Mm-hmm.
These are things that they want resonated down in your spirit for the Holy Spirit to activate in your life. Man, wow. I've had a great time on this episode. Thank you so much. Yes, Tony, thank you so much. I see all of the for such a time as this, for such a time as this, for such a time as this. Yes, keep on having that trending. I see you, Kimberly Fowler, saying that's awesome, Kim. You're awesome, Kimberly. Thank you so much. This is amazing. Connie Green said, this is amazing. Thanks again. Thanks for sharing. She was talking about when you were sharing, Pastor Paulette, and her comments were coming in. This is just incredible tips and advice that you all have shared today. And we just don't take it for granted. So thank you. Our final episode sponsor for today is Lamb Funeral Home. Lamb Funeral Home, listen, they are based in the Concord, North Carolina area, but guess what? They're certified in all 50 states. So people we know really do need to know about a funeral home where they can call, ask some questions, get some ins and outs. Their family is eager to serve yours. And Mr. Terry Lamb, he is a veteran as well as being a funeral home owner, and they have over 28 years of experience. But when you want to know about the veteran benefits, call and ask your questions. What are some of the benefits of an adult child that's a dependent of a veteran or a spouse of a veteran? 704-782-3011, and let them know that the Kim Jacobs Show referred you to them. You're going to learn things like what to expect. What are some of the immediate needs that you'll have if you're dealing with the loss of a loved one or funeral pre-planning. So make sure that you reach out to them again at 704-782-3011. Well, okay. That's our episode for today. I do want you all to know that if you are interested in starting your own talk show, and what better way to be able to share your gift with the world, right? You have a story to tell, but then you're also providing a platform for other people to come on. You may not be the person that shares your story all the time, but you want to have a platform for people to do so. Well, I am offering on behalf of Kim Jacobs Consulting an opportunity for you to get trained on how to start your own show from scratch. You can also get trained. Many ministries and professors and I've had some attorneys and different people reach out just to get trained on the StreamYard platform. So they don't want to have a show, but they want to get trained on how to use the platform of StreamYard. We do offer that training as well, one-on-one. We meet backstage like this for 1 hour for 6 weeks if you're going to be doing your own show, and 1 hour for 4 weeks if you're going to be doing StreamYard only. There on KimJacobsConsulting.com page, you will find a 25% discount from now through December 31st. What better way to come back in the new year knowing that you already have your masterclass secured, kicking off the new year, okay? Get your spot reserved now for the new year. Up until December 31st, you'll be able to get 25% off of the regular price. And if you're a person that would prefer to do financing, guess what? We have a finance option now. You can go and do 360 days, same as cash, or 180 days, same as cash for the StreamYard. So you are in for a treat. Go to KimJacobsConsulting.com and register now. All right. Okay, that's all we can talk about on this show. Betty, what's the most fun thing you think you're going to be doing this Christmas holiday? Tell us.
Just enjoying family and the spirit of Christmas, the birth of Jesus Christ.
Pastor Paulette, what kind of food you gonna be eating over the Christmas holiday?
Oh my goodness. How did you know to ask me about food? Well, I am having roasted crab, garlic noodles, and French bread. I was ready for you.
Roasted crab? You can ready to have a whole seafood Christmas holiday. Y'all, listen, thank you so much for tuning into this episode of the Kim Jacobs Show. Tune in tomorrow to hear Charmaine Prince's journey. Make sure you get your copy of For Such a Time as This. You can get it right on Amazon. You can also get it on the pages that we've already put up. We're going to put their contact information up again right at livinginsidethetestimony.com if you want to get a copy of it from our own Betty Collier. She has copies available and can get them to you. You can get a signed copy, so make sure you go ahead and do that. And you can also connect with PauletteHarper.com, and she will have all of her different projects, 13 different books that she has authored and has served as a coach on in different regards. You don't want to miss this. And don't forget, if you want to get trained, go ahead and get trained on being a host. All right, everybody, have a great day. I'll see you ladies backstage. Thank you for being outstanding guests. Y'all are amazing. All right, everybody, have a great one. I'll see you tomorrow at 11 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Bye-bye. Hello, everyone. I'm Kim Jacobs, host of The Kim Jacobs Show, where we're bringing balance to the world, one household at a time. Listen, we go live every weekday, Monday through Friday at 11 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I bring guests on that talk about their backstories, things that they've had to overcome to become who they are today. Many of them are balancing and juggling life, and they've become experts in different fields. So they're sharing tips with you to make your life just a little bit easier. Many times as a guest in the studio audience, you'll get a chance to walk away with a missing piece of the puzzle that might be missing in your life. Let's go on this journey together, and I look forward to seeing you Monday through Friday at 11 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on The Kim Jacobs Show.